in the grass. Sharks ain't always in the water. Thieves ain't always in the night. God ain't always at the altar. I learned to live with one eye open. Taste getting bit a couple times to know that snakes ain't always in the grass. Sharks ain't always in the water. Snakes don't just slither. Sweet comes before bitter. Saints versus the sinners. I just roll with the winners. I just roll up my sleeves, roll up the windows. Everybody got hidden agendas. They got kids not getting agenda. If not chicken, they tender like Chick-fil-A on the Christian day. Watch Weezy walk on water, turn the shark on the water to fish fillet. Don't forget to pray, don't forget you. Play pickleball with my today. Pockets heavy, I got bricks to lay. Tell them eat your heart out and lick the plate. Can't trust nobody. Where was everybody at when I was just nobody? Just a menace to society. Pockets itching like psoriasis. Thieves in the night move cool like
KBLA Talk 1580. Yeah, it is Talking Point Tuesday around here, and I'm welcoming in Project 21 Ambassador. He is the HBCU Engagement Director for Numbers USA. He goes across the country meeting with students and community members to have discussions. He calls them civil discussions about immigration. He says he's hitting the areas most impacted by immigration, like the Texas border, Chicago, and New York. He's got a Bachelor of Arts in African American Studies from the University of Virginia and a Master's in Education with a concentration on early childhood from Moreland University. Andre Barnes, welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your show, Dominique. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I see you have a lot of different interests. You've done a lot of different work, from HBCU managing for Numbers USA, janitorial staff manager, a high school mentor. You are a dad. You got 4 kids. You love basketball and football. So why the focus on immigration? You have so many issues of interest, so many areas of work. Why is immigration so important to you?
Yes, well, I grew up in Southwest Virginia, and I actually pulled tobacco growing up. There wasn't a McDonald's nearby where I lived. There weren't a lot of agriculture. There was a lot more agricultural jobs than fast food jobs for high schoolers. So I pulled tobacco, and the first thing that I noticed between the time that I pulled tobacco in middle school, then on to high school, was the Black Americans that I would pull tobacco with just disappeared by the time I got to high school. And at the time, I really didn't think about it. But after kind of doing more research and learning more about employee displacement, I realized that I witnessed that in person in real time.
So you're saying migrants took the jobs of Black Americans picking tobacco?
Yes, pulling tobacco, because you don't pick tobacco, you pull it.
Okay, well, obviously I've never done it. I don't smoke it. I haven't pulled it. But whatever it is, you feel like that was a job that Black Americans wanted?
Yes, it's a job that Black Americans did for a long time.
Well, yeah, and we've done a lot of jobs for a long time. Doesn't necessarily mean they're jobs we want now, you know.
Well, I think that a lot of Americans would do these types of jobs like construction and other jobs. Now, some jobs need to modernize. There are some agriculture jobs with modernization. You would see like more automation in those areas. But there are other industries such as tourism and things of that nature, fast food, where Americans will do their jobs. It's just been kind of edged out of it.
So what about the jobs like the slaughterhouses where you see a lot of underaged, immigrant children, and even here in California where we're seeing farmers are reporting a crisis with picking produce, lettuce and tomatoes, and we're seeing crops dying in the field because we don't have the workers. If migrants are taking jobs that Americans want, shouldn't Americans be pouring into those fields, ready to do those jobs or lining up at those meat packing plants looking for employment?
Yes, and I think that in this case that you're talking about, I think that there has to be a more creative recruiting incentive to attract people to those jobs, because there has been a wall to those jobs for decades now. So I think there are Americans out there that will do it.
That wall is that they're dangerous and very low paid. I mean, what kind of wall is that? So are you advocating a raise in the minimum wage, which is $7.25 an hour federally?
What I'm advocating for is that we pay fair wages.
Oh, okay, so a living wage. A living wage then.
Well, for the last 50 years, Americans have not gotten a raise. The amount of money that has been dispersed has been going to the people at the top, right, and not the workers at the bottom. So that is number one, what we need to deal with.
Okay, you don't sound like a Republican, Andre Barnes, because Republicans are the ones that keep refusing to raise the minimum wage. I mean, I agree with everything you just said. Other than, I'm talking about the last three sentences. Let me be clear.
Right. And I don't think we need to raise the minimum wage to like $25 an hour. What I do think we need to do is look at the industry, look at what's being paid, and figure out why the wages are like that. Because what has happened, Dominique, is that America has a Jones for cheap labor. Just look at what we experienced in slavery and what's happening now with the corporations that are accepting people pouring over the border, that are going through dangerous situations just to get here, and then taking advantage of them once they get here by paying them a low wage. And then some of them have been subjected to slavery, prostitution, and then they don't feel comfortable reporting crimes because they are in fear of getting deported.
So, I mean, you can do a study. I wouldn't be against it, but it's not rocket science. Corporations want to maximize profits for shareholders. They don't care about workers, whether they be migrant or, citizen workers. We're talking about maximum extraction of wealth off of labor. That's where we are right now. That's where we are in America.
You're spot on.
So, and you can say, well, we don't need it to be $25 an hour. That depends which market you're in. If you live in New York, you probably do need $25 an hour. If you're in Charlotte, maybe not. But so far, Republicans have blocked every opportunity to raise the minimum wage, even by 50 cents.
Well, I can give you a perfect example of what you're talking about. And this is why I don't want to kind of like raise a set limit, because I believe that the market will correct itself. So in Chicago, there was a bakery. And at this bakery, they employed illegal workers. Now, as they were doing that, a raid happened. And a lot of these illegal workers got fired. And the very next week, the company was forced to hire Black Americans. And not only did they hire them, they gave them a much higher raise than they ever made before. So I do think there will be a market correction. But what has happened is that the market is being flooded with all these additional workers, and American workers are not getting the opportunities at American wages.
I mean, to be fair, to be factually fair and correct, Andre Barnes, Black people haven't had full and equal employment in this country ever since they had to pay us. I mean, that's just a fact. We haven't had full employment since enslavement. So the exploitation model starts there. I want to pivot to, what's happening now with immigration enforcement and why you think it's a good idea or not. We'll look at that when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now.
800-550-9651.
Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
Or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we aim to foster enlightening, sustainable, restorative dialogue, and we welcome unapologetically progressive viewpoints that empower fellow citizens. We are now accepting submissions for KBLA Talk 1580 guest editorials like this one.
With the KBLA Talk 1580 guest editorial, I'm Martin Gordon, chair of the Pasadena Community Coalition. Recently, I listened to a Tavis Smiley Show conversation with James Farr. James said something that caught me off guard. Black out the Dina is gone. My community is being murdered. I said murdered.
All you have to do is go to our website homepage at KBLA1580.com and click on the icon that says KBLA Guest Editorials to learn more about our editorial standards and content submission guidelines. As long as the topic aligns with our mission, we are happy to review your submission and consider it for broadcast. We can't make any promises, but we want to amplify progressive perspectives that are community-focused and solution-oriented. So, go to KBLA1580.com right now to download all the information you need about our guest editorials. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
It does, and we're talking with Andre Barnes. He's an ambassador for Project 2021, and he goes across the country talking about immigration. Now, some Republicans are saying that we need to expand visas for temporary workers in agriculture and tourism, which, interestingly, is one of the areas you mentioned, because they are saying that there are labor shortages in these areas. Some in industry as well, like at the GE Appliances plant in Louisville, Kentucky, where 125 workers were taken off the job during an ice crash. And then those workers that remain say they're under a tremendous amount of pressure. Some of these big manufacturers are also claiming shortages in workers. And we are just getting started with the crackdowns, I would say. How do you respond to that?
Well, with the corporations and our economy, what I would say is that we're not patient. Because what we have seen is that if we allow it, the market will correct itself. So those companies that are looking for workers, if they increase their wages right away, they would see an influx of people that would be interested in filling those jobs.
They'll need to dramatically increase them. But, I mean, Sherrod, who's one of the members of our chat, says the market is not going to correct itself because the bad actors are never held accountable for their crimes. The consequences of their evil are taken on by the working class. The wages are like that because the fat cats are accumulating all the wealth.
I can agree with that statement. And the reason I'm going to agree with that statement is because we do need to pressure our elected officials to take action and to stop this push for corporations to bring in cheap laborers to do the job.
So does that mean that ICE should be also arresting, corporate leaders who are hiring these folks and not just...
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. And I'm going to preference this because they should be prosecuted as well. And what is not happening is we're not seeing that being televised. But the Trump administration has said that they're going to go after those people. Now,
yeah, they've said a lot of things that they haven't done, though. Let's be real. They haven't released the Epstein files either. And they said for sure they were going to do that.
Well, if it doesn't happen, then it is for the American people to pressure their elected officials to do so. Now, one of the things that we have to do, Dominique, is we have to get to 60 votes in the Senate. We need long-term immigration policy. And you mentioned on your show that what we are seeing is a result of rule of law based on executive order. We cannot continue to utilize executive orders to legislate our country. Because what's happening is we have these huge pendulum swings from each administration, and people are upset. And I can understand why they're upset.
Well,
because
I mean,
we are.
Yeah, when it comes to immigration, we have never had a clear, consistent, non-racist immigration policy in this country. So Dems point the finger at Republicans, Republicans point the finger at Democrats, but we have never, ever had a clear and consistent immigration policy. And I just don't see it happening now because it seems like it's more politicized than ever.
And I think that I disagree with you on the ability for it to happen now, because I do think that there's a will. Nobody wants to see these ICE raids. No one wants to see like someone that's been in the United States for 20 or 30 years being carted off into who knows where. So
I wouldn't say nobody. I mean, I have seen some Republicans celebrating this, including Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Barbie, because they think it's funny, or they think, I don't know, they're rejoicing in suffering. I'm glad you don't. I mean, I don't understand why you need a masked man with a tank to get a guy that works at a car wash, or or a lady that sells tamales.
Well, can we be fair that the ICE officers have families, they have businesses outside of
so does LAPD, so does the sheriff's department. They don't run around with masks. That's menacing and unconstitutional. It's problematic.
The LAPD does. Yeah, the SWAT team part of
they don't wear
LAPD
masks.
does.
They wear gas masks. That's a little different.
Okay. Well, what the issue is that the sentiment for ICE officers is very low in the United States, and they say that assaults of ICE officers has gone up.
Yeah, and that's a bunch of bull, because what they're calling an assault is a woman barely brushing her elbow. I just did this story yesterday. Bill Asaley, the US prosecutor here for California, is about to lose his job because the ICE agents keep lying about being assaulted, and then the video contradicts it. I don't want to spend the whole time arguing about that, but they need to take off the masks. Fine. Every other law enforcement agency is unmasked. They can't be that fragile.
Well, I just don't think it's fair that they can be doxxed to the public. We have social media now.
I don't think it's fair that I can be doxxed to the public. It's it's a hazard of being a talk radio host, and it's a hazard of being a cop. Daniel Samir Siren says, he admits that Americans need a raise in wages. Why then focus solely on immigration?
Well, I think immigration actually affects so many aspects of our economy, the housing economy, our wages. A lot of different aspects of our economy are affected by immigration,
including our tax base. How are we going to replace the billions of dollars that migrants have been paying into the tax base, which we keep changing the rules. Pay your taxes, come in through this system or that system, TPS or refugee status. Oh, now you're illegal. Sorry, we're taking your tax money, and we're going to have this big hole in our revenue. So I guess it's a two-part question. What do we do about the hole in the revenue, and why is it good policy to remove people that are not criminals?
We've got to get to 60 votes in the Senate, Dominique. And what we're going to find is once we do that, then we'll be able to put policy in place that's fair across the board. Because you're right. You don't want to see people that have been here for decades be deported. However,
or anyone be deported to South Sudan, for that matter.
I have to look at the situation there. But a lot of these people that are coming from these different countries, they weren't living in those countries. They were living in other countries that were a lot safer, and then eventually came to the U.S.
I guarantee you they weren't living in El Salvador or South Sudan. But
well, absolutely.
So let's get to the bottom line, because we only have a few minutes of your time left. What are you advocating? Okay, because you're saying we need a 60 vote majority, but Republicans have both houses of Congress. They have a charismatic strongman, authoritarian leader, and so they're pretty much having their way right now in every single aspect of society. So what are you advocating, and how do you think, why would it be different than it is right now, where he's got carte blanche, where the Republican Party has carte blanche, than it would be with 60 votes? All it's going to do is make these draconian measures permanent.
I don't think that that's what people want. I think that the American people will push their elected officials to get immigration policies that make sense. Now, what I'm advocating for is that people continue to have a conversation, because part of the problem right now, Dominique, is neither Republicans or Democrats are talking to each other. The Republicans are in a space where they're just like, well, we have all the leverage, and the Democrats are in a space where they're just like, well, we're going to resist everything that you guys are doing, and nothing is getting done. We have to focus on the legislation. That's the most important thing.
And so you would agree that Senator Alex Padilla trying to do something in the midst of this chaos makes sense? I mean, the policy regarding who is eligible to get citizenship based on their time spent in this country and their time paying taxes and their time without doing crime hasn't been updated since Reagan in the 80s. So do you agree with Senator Padilla's move to try to update that?
I've seen Senator Padilla actually in the Senate. I've been in hearings where he has listened to people testify about losing their family members to illegal immigrants that have come across the border and killed them. And he sat there and he gave an excellent explanation on to being sorrowful for that happening. But he feels that he wants to protect immigrants that are coming to the country, and not allowing people to vilify them. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but how do we take that and get to the negotiating table? Because he's passionate, just like some of the conservatives on the conservative side are passionate about immigration. How do we table that?
Well, we have to have a commitment to have a comprehensive, fair, non-racist immigration policy, rather than just racializing it, racially profiling people, and trying to meet quotas. Right now, it feels like ICE and the Trump administration are trying to meet quotas so they can claim victory in numbers that they threw out that weren't even real. Millions of people pouring across the border. That didn't happen. During the Biden administration, millions of people did not come. When you make up numbers, then you have to back them up. And the only way to do that is to arrest people that aren't criminals, take away green cards, because there aren't millions of criminals here now illegally.
Well, I'd have to disagree about the numbers of people, but I do understand the premise of what you're saying. And we do have to deal with those issues and deal with the numbers and how the policies are set. But I would push back and say, didn't the 1965 Immigration Act deal with a lot of the racial components? But what happened with the 1965 Immigration Act, they exponentially increased the numbers of people in the country, because when people were coming, they were bringing like 21 family members into the country, and those people weren't being counted. So there's a policy.
I guarantee you, it
there.
doesn't add up to millions. That's Trump math.
That is not Trump math. That is actually something that David Leonhardt mentions with the problems of the 1965 Immigration Act. So it's not just Trump.
Which was actually 1929 Immigration Act being updated. But yeah, okay, well, we got a minute here, so let me just let you use it how you will, Andre Barnes. What will you leave us with?
Well, I would push people to push their elected officials to come to the negotiating table. Both sides are passionate. Both sides have the political will to want to upgrade our immigration policy. It needs to happen. I would also like to thank you, Dominique, for having me on your show. I think that people aren't exposed to the history of immigration in our country that is so complex. And we had so many leaders like A. Philip Randolph, Frederick Douglass, and the 19th century paper owners, like the owners of the Chicago Defender, say that there's a problem with mass immigration for Black Americans. So we need to look at that history. We need to look at how the policies affect different people in our country and make policies that are fair to people on both sides of the border.
I appreciate the conversation, Mr. Barnes, and thank you for joining me on a Talking Point Tuesday.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. News, traffic, and sports is next, and we'll be hearing from Senator Alex Padilla. KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Over 170 people were evacuated using emergency slides after an aborted takeoff on a Denver to Miami flight.
When I heard the boom, I knew something was wrong. It was a loud noise from under a plane. I knew something serious just happened.
The FAA says a landing gear issue caused the American Airlines jet to stop suddenly. One person had a minor injury. Black 38-year-old Khalees Karan Crowder from Glendale, California, has been arrested for allegedly engaging in inappropriate behavior at a Walmart in Burbank. Crowder was taken into custody after being spotted sniffing a woman's backside inside the store. He is currently being held on $100,000 bail and is scheduled to appear in court on August 1st. And 5 new members just joined the Baseball Hall of Fame, including 3 Black legends, CeCe Sabathia, Dave Parker, and Dick Allen. Parker, who passed away last month, was honored by his son at the ceremony in Cooperstown, New York. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
It was a good night for both of LA's baseball teams. The Dodgers secured a 5-2 win at Cincinnati. Shohei Ohtani was busy on the base pass. He drove in 2 runs with a double and scored his 100th run on Freddie Freeman's RBI single. Ohtani leads the major leagues in runs scored. 3 homers helped the Angels beat Texas 6-4. Angels reliever Kelly Jansen pitched a scoreless 9th inning to earn his 19th save. Jansen has not allowed a run in 16 straight appearances. Congratulations to NASCAR race driver Bubba Wallace. On Sunday, Wallace became the first black driver to win a race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, home of the Indy 500. The 31-year-old Wallace won NASCAR's Brickyard 400 Cup race. He was blazing the track in a Toyota Camry XSE. Wallace, a native of Mobile, Alabama, won his first race on the NASCAR circuit since 2021. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Do Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms keep coming back? Tremfya, guselkumab, may help, with rapid remission achieved at 12 weeks and lasting clinical remission at 1 year. Some even saw visible improvement of their intestinal lining at 12 weeks and 1 year. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active Crohn's disease and adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Healing is possible with Tremfya. Approximately 3 out of 10 patients were in endoscopic remission at 1 year, based on areas visualized on colonoscopy, which may not represent the deeper bowel layer or entire GI tract. Individual results may vary. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
An official message from Medicare.
I turned 65 this year. I knew it was time to figure out Medicare, and I had questions, like when to enroll and how to enroll. So I went straight to the official source, Medicare.gov, to get the facts about Medicare. I found answers to all my questions, and I'm ready to get started. And so can you. Just go to Medicare.gov to get the real facts about Medicare.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts, guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place. For changes big and small. Loud or quiet. Find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
And I'm so happy to welcome first Latino elected to represent California in the U.S. Senate, son of immigrants, grew up in the Valley, went to MIT as an engineer, and ended up in elected politics, first as a city council, youngest president ever of the LA City Council, then the state Senate, Secretary of State, and now as a U.S. Senator. Alex Padilla, welcome.
Good morning, Dominique. Thank you for having me back. And as you're rattling off not just my history, I'm recalling our history, because at every step of the way, we've always been in touch. You've had me on your shows and your programs. And so thank you for having me back in these very difficult times for not just Southern California, but the entire country.
Yes, yes. I'm amazed that you remember all of that, Senator. But I think this is the first time I've spoken to you since they tried to throw you down and, treat you like a criminal for trying to ask a question. I'm glad you're okay.
First of all, a response from the Department of Homeland Security and the security agents said that I never would have imagined. But it's pretty telling, right? If this is how they respond to a United States senator who's trying to ask a question, then you can only imagine what's going on in the streets around Los Angeles, around California, and beyond, where there are no cameras, with people who don't have the title of an elected official. And that's, I think, what's enraging, not just me, but if you look at the polls, the majority of the American public, right? They see this administration clearly overreaching. They see this administration clearly getting more aggressive and more cruel with their tactics, because for all their talk about targeting dangerous, violent criminals, we now know the data is clear. The vast majority of people who they're arresting, who they're detaining, and who they're deporting, many without due process, do not have that dangerous, violent criminal history. They're just hard workers, people working in restaurants and car washes and in the fields, picking fruits and vegetables and, so many other jobs that are critical for our economy.
Yeah, it's really terrible what we're seeing out there. And I said that as soon as I saw the narrative around detaining you or handcuffing you or whatever they were trying to do. Mm-hmm. I've observed Senator Padilla for many, many years. You're not a grandstander. You're not aggressive. You're about as polite and, diplomatic as they come. So if they're doing that to you, can just forget the rest of us.
Right. And again, just for the audacity to try to ask a question, to do my job as a senator, and try to provide oversight and accountability to this administration. So you can just imagine, well, first of all, the many thoughts that ran through my mind as they're putting me flat on the ground and handcuffing me. But flash forward a few minutes, and then the handcuffs were finally coming off, and they offered me a meeting with the Secretary Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security. And I said, of course. They were pretty shocked, I think, because of the treatment. I think they thought it'd be incensed, and internally I was. but I was there to do a job. The context of what happened that day is not just me showing up, and we can go through it. Look, it's a federal building. It's secure. I was escorted in by the National Guard and the FBI, et cetera. But this is because of months and months and months of Secretary Noem, the Department of Homeland Security, refusing to answer questions. Going back to January, the beginning of this administration, when they would have somebody in front of any of the committees that we sit on, particularly Judiciary Committee, asking questions about how they're going about immigration enforcement and just dodging questions, refusing to answer. And so we follow that up with formal requests for information, requests for data, which they don't respond to. And so when I happened to be in Los Angeles in the same building on the same floor as this press conference, and thought, well, maybe going over there to listen could shed light on what's really going on, and then asking a question, and you saw what happened next.
Yeah, and the story that they don't recognize a sitting U.S. Senator, to me, you just said you're not qualified to be Homeland Security Director. If there's only 100 senators, come on now.
It says a lot more about her than it does about me. I mean, when you're in California, that's in the briefing book, who are the two senators representing the state that you're about to go into. So anyway, it was a tough moment, but I'm still praying that some good comes out of it. And among the things that have come out of it are not just the outpouring of support and the personal outreach, but the calls and letters to my office, et cetera. But the general public, I think the opinion, the mood is shifting. Look at the most recent polls, and people recognize that if this was just about going after dangerous, violent criminals, that'd be one thing. But the reality is that it's not. We know that the majority of people who are, again, being arrested, detained, deported, are not convicted criminals. They may be here undocumented, and there's a number of ways that happens. But they're otherwise hardworking, tax-paying, family-raising, people who strengthen our communities, and that should be embraced. So we have this bill. You talked with your prior guest about the bill that I've introduced, which does not create a new program, not a new bureaucracy. It simply updates existing law. It's known as the registry bill because going back 100 years, the country realized, look, there's folks who may not be documented, but if they're otherwise, they've been here 7 years or longer and don't have a criminal history, they've been paying taxes, et cetera, they deserve an opportunity to come out of the shadows, take a step towards legalization, which can be a step towards residency or a green card, and maybe in time, a step towards citizenship. It's not just in their interest, it's in our country's interest. So over the last century, this registry law has been updated a few times. The deadline to which to apply has been updated to reflect that particular generation. But it's been more than a generation since we last updated the registry. The last time it was done under Republican President Ronald Reagan was back in the mid-'80s. So my proposal is, look, it's about time. Dangerous violent criminals, go for it. We don't want them in our community, but the vast majority of other immigrants deserve a better way and a path to legalization.
Right. So the way it's written now, you would have had to be here like 50 years or something, right?
Right. 7 years back then has turned into 52 years today.
Right. So the update would make it 7 years, no criminal record, and a history of paying taxes, correct?
Exactly. The very type of people that the vast majority of the public, whether it's Angelenos, Californians, or increasingly people across the country, bring value to our communities.
Well, and when we're in a time where we are seeing people literally being kidnapped off the streets, having green cards taken away, being made illegal. You were illegal under TPS 1 second, and the next second that's rescinded, and now you are illegal. The things that are being called crimes, which is you came, trying to be a refugee, but now that's program is no longer valid. So now you've become a criminal through paperwork. It seems like this type of simple solution is more important than ever.
Right. And there's a couple of important points here. You gave a good example. Somebody who might have come from another country lawfully under the temporary protected status program, and Donald Trump just takes it away. So you went from being lawful, came according to the rules, to now undocumented and vulnerable to deportation. That's a very typical example. Another is people who come lawfully on some sort of visa, usually a work visa, and while they're here working, apply for residency. But the backlogs are so big, the wait times are so long, the visa expires, and maybe you can renew, but then that expires. And so you go from being lawful one day to undocumented the next. But I think really telling here is the stories of the types of people who are getting caught up in these raids, right? You saw the story just over the last couple of weeks in California where the father of 3 Marines, Dominique, who happened to be undocumented, but he was married to a United States citizen, had 3 citizen children, each enlisting in the Marines. One's now a veteran, 2 active duty, willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Otherwise, like law-abiding, tax-paying, etc., and even he's violently rounded up. We've heard story after story of legal residents rounded up and even deported without their day in court. We've had veterans detained and arrested. And so this administration is out of control, and we're working hard to try to rein them back in.
I mean, you saw that they arrested my brother, the mayor of Newark, who is an African-American and an American citizen. They only kept him for a day, but for me, that was foreshadowing of what we could see, not just with migrants, but any elected official that defies and tries to hold accountable.
And here's a real big picture item, Dominique. I mean, my real concern, and I've been sharing this with my colleagues, both Democrats and Republicans, is the way Trump has gone after Los Angeles these last couple of months, has set the stage for him to militarize any community, any city in America on any issue. It happens to be Los Angeles right now. It happens to be about immigrants' rights right now, but he has set the stage unless we rein him in, and that's why the lawsuits are so important, to make sure he doesn't do this across the country on any issue that the people disagree with him with.
Senator Padilla, your bill is very narrow in focus, and it makes sense during these fraught times. But it seems to me that we've never had a fair, consistent, non-racist immigration policy in this country. So it becomes easy to use this issue as a political football. What's the way forward? How do we get beyond this to something that makes sense?
Yeah, and so I think there's that opening right now because of the overreach of the administration. People are starting to get it, including some Republicans in Congress. You know, I may be a little optimistic, but when you have somebody like Steve Scalise from Louisiana, the number 2 Republican in the House of Representatives, saying there's got to be a better way, I take that as an opening. When industry leaders, right, the employers of a lot of these workers in hotels, in agriculture, in construction, et cetera, reaching out to the White House, reaching out to leaders in Congress saying, whoa, you're hurting my workforce here, and that's going to be bad for my business and bad for the economy. We know things are shifting, and maybe there's an opening for a better way because, right, the history of immigration in the country is difficult when it's intertwined with discrimination and racism. Maybe once upon a time it was the Italians and the Irish. Once upon a time it was the Chinese, right? The Chinese Exclusion Act. In more recent decades, it's been people from Latin America. But immigrants come here from all over the world. Our whole system needs modernizing. Yes, we got to secure the border. There's no question about that. The numbers seem to be way down. So I don't know what Republicans keep claiming otherwise. There's redoing how people can come to the United States lawfully because the backlogs are too long. That process is difficult, but we can't ignore the people who have been here for years, in many cases, decades. It's a very different population, but the whole system needs modernizing. My proposal is simply that component, bringing respect and dignity to the people that have been here, working hard, contributing to our communities.
And what will it take for that to pass right now?
So, it may be an uphill climb, but I think the time is now. We need a majority in the House of Representatives. I think if this measure was brought to the floor, it would pass. I think we need 60 votes in the United States Senate. And I believe the sentiment is out there. I have a lot of conversations with Republican colleagues in private, and they tell me, look, I get the farm workers. We need to do better by them. I support dreamers, et cetera. That's always been a bipartisan proposal, but we need the political will for them to say that publicly and to vote accordingly, despite what Donald Trump may be saying the very same day or the very next day. So we got to keep pushing. We got to keep pressing. That's why we have to keep standing up and speaking up, Dominique. I go back to not just what happened to me at the Homeland Security Press Conference in Los Angeles a month and a half ago, but 2 days later, it was No King's Day. And you saw millions of people across the country take to the streets to say, this is not an autocracy. This is a democracy. We're going to stand up for our rights. That First Amendment right to peacefully protest is so critical in protecting not just immigrants' rights, not just voting rights, and we should talk about that, but all the other rights that are near and dear to us.
Absolutely. Well, Senator Alex Padilla, I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for always checking in with us.
Of course, Dominique. Thank you.
It's the perfect time to call me if you want to reflect on anything you've heard. 800-920-1580. I'm Dominique DiPrima for KBLA Talk 1580.
More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Hey, man. Hey, what's up, What's that station you listening to? Oh, man, you don't know? That's Talk Radio. KBLA 1580 AM. Check it out. 1580 KBLA AM. 1580 Talk Radio. Progressive.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're celebrating our 4th anniversary, and this track right here is the gift one of our devoted listeners presented to us.
Where you get some information, get a true education, just to know. Ooh, yeah. 1580.
How cool is that? Having a member of our KBLA delegation write us a song. Stop it! Our listeners love us, and there ain't nothing we can do about it. Wouldn't want to. Thanks to Cardell and everybody else for turning on KBLA Talk 1580. We love you right black. At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time, whenever news breaks, while we're on the air. It's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580, and we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. Thank you, thank you.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
This is Secret Clinical dominating extra stinky stress sweat. And this is regular deodorant. Secret Clinical in a heat wave. Oh, what a beautiful day. This is regular deodorant. Ugh, I can't. Secret Clinical with workout sweat. Let's run another marathon. And regular deodorant. How much more? Secret is the GOAT. Because nothing fights sweat better.
Stay fresher under pressure.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
And that's exactly right. We're for everybody, including you. Agree, disagree, Republican, Democrat, somewhere in between, fake independent, progressive poser. You belong here. 800-920-1580. That's the number if you want to say a thing about a thing or engage with me. I would love to do so. So it's so relevant that Senator Padilla called in to break down his bill, which deals with one very specific aspect of immigration, after our independent, air quotes, friend Fred called yesterday, calling it an amnesty bill. It's not an amnesty bill. It updates the registry bill of 1929 that made it possible for people who have been here for 7 years without a criminal record and paying their taxes to get a green card. According to The Guardian, this would impact, according to Newsweek, this could impact up to 8 million immigrants who may be able to get a green card because they've been here a long time. They've been paying taxes. Right now, since it hasn't been updated since the days of Reagan, you would have had to be here 52 years to qualify. And you probably are not going to be going to get a job. I mean, unless you came here when you were a little kid. You know, you came when you were 20. You finally eligible for a green card at 72. Probably not going to go pick lettuce. I'm hoping you're not going to have to do that. Let's go to Paul calling us from LA. Good morning, Paul. Paul, you with me?
Hey, Dominique. Yeah, I'm with you. You might not like me after this, but I got to say some things.
All good. Say what you got to say.
That man came on black radio and did not address issues that we are dealing with in real time here as black Americans. And I want to share something with you. So 300,000 black women since the administration got in office have lost their jobs. And since the pandemic, 518,000 black women have lost their jobs in the labor force. But you didn't talk anything directly or speak up anything directly to that. But you came on black radio during this time frame because you're pushing a bill that supposedly is supposed to protect immigrants. But you did not have any smoke for the very people that are exploiting the labor.
Well, Paul, to be fair, when you speak to a sitting U.S. senator, it's rare. You don't get to interview a sitting U.S. senator every day. They typically come and pitch something, or you go and pitch something. We only had 10 minutes. He wanted to talk about his immigration bill. It is not a new program. It is only making it, whereas some of those people who are being kidnapped could now get green cards. So to be fair, it wasn't billed as a wide-ranging interview. I know Senator Padilla well enough to know he would have been fine talking about that stuff. And perhaps after hearing your critique, he will book another interview with us to do that. I've had those conversations with him before, both on and off the air. So I'm confident that that's not an issue with this particular senator.
Okay, that's cool, Dominique. But it's cool when you say it behind the scenes. But I need you out in the open speaking out.
I said I said behind and in front of. I didn't say just behind, Paul.
Okay,
to be clear.
Just real quick, because I know you have callers. Look, here's some context because there's been numbers on this now. The H-1B visa, we've been going back and forth about this, Dominique. There's data on this stuff now. So what these tech companies and Silicon Valley companies are doing is they're monopolizing the H-1B visa system to bring workers here from other countries in those AI jobs, and they bring them here with low wages, right? Like the Amazons, like the Metas, like the Teslas, things of that nature. And then once they get here, what they're doing is they're jacking up their salaries and wages here. We know AI is overall where everything is. Tech is where everything is. But what's happening is the working class, which is predominantly black people, right? The middle working class, are being laid off and losing their jobs behind him. So when he comes on the show, I need him to talk about this. The average, so they track this. For Amazon Web, the salary for a software engineer, and these are the jobs that they're getting when they come here eventually, you can earn up to $185,000 a year. A software development engineer, $263,000 a year. Data scientists at Amazon, $230,000 a year. But compare that to the working class of people that have been here from the beginning and built this country for where it is and where our wages are and where our homes are being lost. Like I'm not being rude.
No, I don't take that as rudeness, Paul. But here's the thing: you're comparing software engineers who are making $263,000 a year, and I think you're saying they're bringing them in, claiming they're going to be making lower wages. I haven't seen that data, but what most of the people that are coming in that have been here 7 years or longer, we're talking about, more middle class and working class people. We're not; those software engineers are getting in regardless of the administration or the immigration policy, right? Those are the visas that Elon Musk was arguing for.
And and so you're right, but what I'm saying is yes, there's two things that can be true, and I've spoken up for that. What they're doing is they're pointing towards a bottom while they're basically taking all the money from up top. The problem is they're exploiting it. So what I'm exactly saying is you come on the network and say how they're treating people, but you don't have smoke for the actual people that are doing it.
Okay, well, you know what? We're up against news, traffic, and sports. I kind of see what you're saying, and I would have liked to talk to the senator about more different things. But like I said, I only had him for 10 minutes. That's very typical when you deal with the U.S. senator, if you get 10 minutes. And certainly I will, investigate whether he'd be amenable to another conversation about employment for black people, which he certainly represents quite a few of us. And I know from previous on and off air conversations that is not an issue for this particular senator. But I think some of the issues that you're bringing up warrant further investigation with or without a senator. So I appreciate the call. News, traffic, and sports. And then we'll be talking with Enrique Ruig on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Over 170 people were evacuated using emergency slides after an aborted takeoff on a Denver to